Welcome to the 52nd edition of Vision du Réel. I'm very pleased tonight to be with the director of Living Water, Pavel Borecký. Welcome, Pavel.
Hi, nice to see you again.
Living Water is a film from the national competition and it's an international premiere. So, Pavel, can you tell us about the genesis of your film?
Well, the fascination with Jordan is very much linked to my interest in sustainability, in development, in the, let's say, what I would call more like extreme landscapes. I previously developed projects in Amazon, one on refugees in near Western Sahara, on Western Sahara conflict. So I was moving more towards the desert. And while collaborating in 2016 with Goethe Institute, while collaborating as a curator between Prague and Amman, it brought me to Jordan. And I had a chance, an opportunity to meet like very courageous people who were trying to keep the country going and improve status of women, improve the infrastructures, and it's geopolitically very hot region. And I realized that somewhere on the basis of this society, which keeps involving more and more and inviting more and more refugees, there is water. And literally, I realized that the country is now becoming increasingly more dependent on underground water. And it has there's a catch to it, of course. And this is what I'm trying to explore in the film. What happens around water, which is being extracted, which travels to different places. And what does it mean? What can we learn from it about power, about different types of priorities, who is able to develop in what terms, and so on. So the questions I'm maybe asking are a little bit anthropological. I don't know, maybe it's because I am trained as anthropologist as well, but I'm a filmmaker at the same time. So that's the genesis sort of. I happened to get funding for a PhD in Switzerland, and then I devoted completely to Jordan and my first feature film project.
Thank you. And your film is very poetic. I really enjoy your visual and sound research. Can you tell us a little bit about your formal intention also?
I would start by the biggest concern of us all. I mean, this is what's supposed to be the biggest concern of us all, which is climate change. And in recent years, I've been very much interested in artistic responses to the climate change, the ways of storytelling that are linked or try to capture some issues that either lead to climate change or are the outcomes of the changing climates. And I decided to work very consciously on methodologies, looking into methodologies of environmental films, looking into types of aesthetics, politics, and methods which they use. And I started wondering if there is not more space for things which I would call ecographic, ecologically attuned filmmaking. And I got really interested by some inspiring projects. I can start talking about my references maybe later. And the film is sort of an experiment on portraying a certain ecology of the place, which involves the people, by the way, but it's not necessarily narrated through a character-driven lens, or let's say human-centric perspective. That there is something at stake for specific group of people or specific individuals. Like I'm trying to suggest in between the lines through the methods and aesthetics I'm sort of developing with my sound designer, that perhaps we need to start taking care about the water itself. The water might have a character, and what if we speculate about the character of water? What if nature needs to have its own rights? And if it needs to have rights, maybe we need to find ways how to communicate this need. And I see there is a big role for filmmaking. There is a huge role for art in these times when the climate change is still out of hands.
And can you tell us a little bit more about ecographic? What ecographic is?
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. It's a bit of a provocation because I know from A to Z ethnographic filmmaking. This is sort of my background. And it can be at times very innovative, very playful. I mean, we all know sort of Jean Rouge and all of those critical moments when ethnologists or anthropologists, they influenced the canon, or let's say cinema in general, and they are remembered and they are around still, or their work is around. Recently, we can talk about Sensory Ethnography Lab. And this year's Vision d'Irel is hosting Philippe Cartelli or Pacho Velez, who were both trained in Sensory Ethnography Lab. And for me, Sensory Ethnography Lab is another groundbreaking community of creative people who inspired me to work in something in the direction I name ecographic, environmentally attuned cinema, and it's experimental, while criticizing ethnography as a method which points at the human. I mean, we are always interested in human in the first place. The cultural diversity, blah, blah, blah. There is always a man in the middle. And I'm saying, my provocation is, what if we are overlooking something by always caring about, even including refugees? This is like a very sensitive question. We should maybe tell more stories about refugees and refuginess, because we care about human rights and injustice and stuff like that. Fair enough. But what if we are overlooking even more elemental issues like extinction of species? And there are projects that, discussing this as well. I'm just saying the urgency, I'm not seeing enough of attempts and seriousness, and it's crazy urgent. What is more urgent than extinction? So that's why.
Wow, it's a very, very interesting approach. I love it. And maybe let's talk about your characters. All these people that are in your film. How did you convince them, and how did you manage to meet all them?
Yeah. So maybe for those who didn't manage to watch the film, but they get interested, I work in between villagers who are a former nomadic population of Jordan, of Wadi Rum desert in the south of Jordan, in between community of tech people, let's say engineers, who are responsible for water infrastructure and so on. And you might say that I'm touching on politics as well, moving more towards urban centers and what is at stake for urban centers in terms of their growth and sustenance. And the main conflict I'm sort of portraying, and I'm getting to the characters, is in between different water communities. And one of them is Bedouins, and they need water for pure survival because they live in the desert and they live in the villages now. So obviously I needed some closeness, and I developed relationships during my research in Jordan, where I stayed for 1 year. I live in Wadi Rum desert in the south of Jordan, in those communities. And the Ali, the person you see a second in the film, how he is lying, like leaning on the wall on the wall of the mountain. I spent weeks living with his family. So this is obviously what grows into the specific project. And the same I tried with engineers, even though I didn't really manage to live with engineers in their families. But engineers in the city, they open up their companies, water companies for me. So from within, I was learning how this all water business works. And then I was trying to find my characters, the people who manage water in a specific way. Yeah, and there is one special character, and I will not talk about her too much because her role is a bit mysterious, and it is to remain for a viewer mysterious. But it's sort of a voice that connects different parts of the film, and yeah, I don't know how much I can say about her, but I would actually stay with this information that she is very much important for the Bedouin community, even though she was not born there. This person was not born there, which you might maybe see as a narrator or some kind of a voice flying in the air. So we are in between these two. She is special, and the third one, actually the fourth one, because third is politicians a little bit. There's a voice of king in the film. It is the voice, or sort of the presence of farmers. And there, again, I didn't live with the farmers, but they opened the door for me, and they trusted me that I will be fair to their positions and what they are trying to achieve with the limited water from the desert. So that's, I think, basic answer.
Thank you. And your film takes a critical look at water management. Was it an issue during the shooting?
Well, I can critical. Yeah, the thing is, I developed throughout the year in Jordan a special relationship with the Ministry of Water and Irrigation. You know, because the water is a security issue. We are in the region where on one side you have Israel and Palestine, in the north you have Syria, in the east there is Iraq, in the south Saudi Arabia. So having another crazy guy running around and taking photographs of infrastructure, this can be tricky. And so I try to develop like some kind of alliance with the ministry, but not really, let's say, nobody told me what to shot and what not to shot. Yeah, it was up to me how I want to tell the story. So in terms of being critical, the ministry sort of appreciates the project. The state appreciates the project because they still need to raise awareness. Even though every single child in the country is aware that we have limited water, but actually what is being done about it? This is where Jordan can still improve and innovate. And the film is a little bit of a provocation. Maybe we need to innovate in specific areas. And this is where the film takes more critical stance and position towards a private agriculture, the big large-scale agriculture in desert areas where private owners are enriching themselves using the limited resources that belong to the nation. So maybe this is kind of a scenario you can see all over the world, unfortunately. And water, yeah, maybe in the country which is second most water scarce country in the world, and people to survive, they need water. This is even more critical than, you know, anywhere else. So I'm trying to be critical there, featuring the voice of a professor who actually followed from his whole career the situation with water in Jordan, and he's basically very critical about how water was used for private enrichment. And there's a lesson. And I think the country, maybe more countries in the neighborhood, in the Middle East, they can reflect on this kind of unequal exploitative relationship as well if they present the film in their own country. And the strategy needs to change. Luckily, it is changing from private benefit in the agriculture, which is not so efficient, towards the people in the cities primarily. And the film kind of shows this shift in strategy, in priorities, where the priorities are. If it's enough to save the country, I mean, in upcoming decades, the water situation will still be difficult. So this is where maybe the film can have another role, playing another role as an invitation for more international collaboration, including maybe Switzerland. So I don't know. Yeah, depends where the film goes and who will see this. Yeah, but I think this is a point when the film is most critical towards large-scale farming in the desert. I think that this is what you mean, right?
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
And I appreciate having this look through the past with the archive, the footage from the archive. Where did you collect this archive? Was it important for you to have it? Well, the archival footage appears in 2 places in the film, and with my dramaturgist, Veronika Janatková, we had long discussions about where is the right place for archival footage. I felt it is important to touch a history of settling down the Bedouin communities in specific places, and how primarily Bedouin see this history from today's perspective. Because they see it as something they decided on for themselves. We want to settle down here, no more nomadic life. We want to build schools and so on and so forth. Whereas very often the situation actually is that the state made big incentives for nomadic populations across the MENA region to settle down, to control the population more. So I wanted to touch this. I wanted to touch through the archival footage, which comes from 60s. This is no, actually 20s, mid-20s. This is the oldest piece of archival footage I use. That there was a certain promise of modernization. Okay, settle down and develop a different type of lifestyle and style of sustenance, and so on. And I'm asking with the audience, what happened to this promise of development since then, and what this kind of development can mean in the future? Because the film makes sort of a circles back in a way, not only in space, but it circles back to the past. And I'm going into the spoilers, so I don't want to go there. But yeah, there is maybe this big question is, aren't we going in circles? Aren't we going in circles in a certain way, like making the very same promise you did in 60s in Jordan with the settling down the Bedouin, settle down, become farmers, have a good life, your kids will go to school, blah, blah, blah. And I'm simplifying, I'm making it sort of ridiculous a bit, but this is what happened ultimately. Isn't this promise there still being renewed? Is it a false promise? Or, you know, so ultimately the question is, what is the future for life in deserts, in the situations when the whole planet is going more extreme? Is the life going to be extinct there, including people, and they will all leave and we will all end up in cities? Or
what's the future for communities like them? And I'm using archival footage to show that there's a certain trajectory and to those questions. Yep.
Thank you very much, Pavel, for your poetic and ecographic film. And the film is available on our website. And take care, and I hope to see you soon.